Hello, everybody. This is MILF Lovers Anonymous. I'm your host, Jonas Goldberg.
And I'm Akiva.
Yeah. We always sound so professional in the beginning, and the moment we start speaking, it doesn't work out because we suck.
No,
Uh,
but we're local professional MILF lovers.
we are professional MILF lovers, and we will fuck a MILF for free. That's our business.
Because we love them.
It's not a good business. No money is made, but we enjoy it. So what are you going to do about it?
And we love MILFs.
Now, today, as the kids say, I finna be real with you. We're gonna talk about something that's a little bit more personal to us. Last episode, we talked about weird YouTube channels, and although mine was kind of personal to me, it really wasn't like that serious. But this one is more personal to us, and this is our Jewish identities. We take great pride in the fact that we are Jewish. And we both have not, some people are born into Jewish families and they're kind of just Jewish all their lives. I'm not saying, and there's nothing wrong with that, but generally, their path to becoming Jewish is generally a lot more standard. Our path was not exactly as standard, even though we're both ethnically Jewish. I don't know. Do you want to talk about yours first, or do you think I should talk about mine first? I don't care how we do it.
Why don't we pop into yours first?
All right, okay. So for context, unlike my good friend Akiva here, I did not. I always knew I was ethnically Jewish. My dad is Jewish. My mom is not, but my dad is Jewish. And so I've always known I was Jewish, and I've celebrated Jewish holidays all my life. I always knew what Rosh Hashanah is. I always knew about Yom Kippur. Every holiday season we celebrate Hanukkah, but that was as far as my Jewish experience had gone, realistically. I kind of knew I was Jewish, but it was less like a thing that mattered to me, and it was more like an interesting, fun fact about me. Now I'd like to cut into the future, okay? I guess it's the past, I guess now. But at the point of time that I'm talking about, it's the future. So, 80, what is it? 85 miles per hour. It's it's like the speed the DeLorean it goes at. However it goes. And now I'm in ninth grade in high school, and I'm going to a Christian school. My parents never particularly cared about what type of school I went to. It just kind of happened that every school I went to was either a Catholic or a Christian school. Now, in that school, I was noticing the Christianity being pushed on me very heavily. Now, I'm not getting mad about the fact that the school was telling me to be Christian, because it's like, whoa, it's almost like it was a Christian school, right? It's kind of like going to like a murderer's house and then being shocked when he stabs you. It's like, oh my god, I never saw this coming.
Right. And I will say, like, a Christian environment, it's going to be pretty prominent and obvious, and they're going to make it very blatantly like, if you're not Christian, you don't fit in, I guess. I don't know.
That's the thing about the school,
that's
right?
How I feel.
The school was like the way they advertised and the way they acted were very different. So like the reason why we went was because the school was very much like, hey man, if you're not Christian, you can still come here. We're just about getting you into college. And they had some pretty good like college connections. They were very good on that aspect, and they were good at getting people into college. That's why my parents wanted me to go.
Because they felt like it was the best place for you to They felt like it was the best place for you to be set up for success.
Correct.
Okay.
And for a bit, I definitely think they did do that decently well. I liked my teachers. I liked the way everything was run. But as time went on, you slowly began to notice a lot of the cracks. one of the major things I remember happening at that school was every like it was like either like every Tuesday or Wednesday we would have a chapel service. And during most of the chapel services, we would have a guest speaker. He'd come up and he'd go, "Hey, man, I'd like to fuck God and his tight little pussy," and that's basically, uh, and that's basically what they would say. And it was like, yeah, I get you, I guess. Uh, and that was basically it. But sometimes we'd have like a really special guest, and like that was when we wouldn't even do chapel, and we would just be called into the chapel, and then a guy would come out and he would just talk about God for a bit. And there were two of these times that this happened that made me realize there was some shit wrong here.
Yeah.
First time, a guy walked out, and he was like a former sheriff or something. That's not the bad part. I'm not gonna fucking go on some like if you were ever a sheriff in your entire life, or if you're currently a sheriff, that's a bad thing. But like, basically, his entire speech. Keep in mind, there's supposed to be like a religious service thing to teach us more about God, but the entire time he was just talking about like why we should respect Donald Trump. And listen, I'm not gonna go into like a whole like political rant, but like
don't use your like religious stance or like your stance in a former position of power to promote your political agenda, right?
Partially that, but it's also just kind of like if I'm going into this place to learn about God, I want to learn about God, even if even if I just like the thing is, I don't even care if I had agreed with his point of view, right? It's that it just had nothing to do with anything. It was very clear they were just trying to push an agenda on us. The same thing happened when I went to VidCon in 2018. They were doing a panel about like video editing, but the entire time they were just talking about feminism. And it's like, I agree with feminism, but it's like that's not why I'm here. So I walked out because it's like this is doing literally nothing for me. So I just left.
Right. It's like going to like when I would like I used to volunteer in a retirement home.
Right.
With residents who suffered from Alzheimer's and dementia. And that's always been like a really important like thing for me. Like that's always been an important topic to me because I see how it affects lives. But I go into this event for like for these residents with Alzheimer's and dementia, and I'm sitting there with a couple of my favorite residents, and we're chilling, we're drinking tea, or I think we were drinking lemonade actually, and we were having some snacks and stuff, and this dude comes in and he's like, "Here's why you should vote. Like it's important that you vote, even though you're near the end of your life, you need to vote." And it's like, but you were supposed to come in and like talk to us about like, I think it was talking about how like you can adapt to life changes because your life is definitely changed once you're in a nursing home.
Correct.
With a disease like that, with a condition and shit. But he was like, "This is why you need to vote, and this is blah 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 blah," and it was like, dude, like I kind of sat there and I looked over at one of the residents, and the resident was like, she mouthed at me, she was like, "What the fuck?" And then she was like, can I go to my room? I don't feel well." And the nurse kind of like was like, "All right, Eli, go take and then I was like, "No, I'll take They were like, "Okay, Akiva, thanks." So I took her back to her room, and she just sat down, and she was like, "What the fuck?" She was like, "I don't want to be told how to vote. I wanted to actually learn about how to adapt to my new lifestyle." And she was like, "I'm sorry, Akiva, but it seemed like you were uncomfortable too." And I was like, "Yeah, why don't we just sit and read or something?" But it was just like, I hate those. I hate it when they take this spot that they're given to talk about something, and then they're just like, "Nah, I'm gonna fuck all of that. I'm gonna talk about this topic, and this is why you should listen to me. It's like, fuck off.
Right.
Anyway, that's my rant. Anyway.
Yeah. So basically, like, the United Army was just like, listen, Doc, agree with you or not, this has nothing to do with anything. And it kind of, there was kind of this sense in me that, like, I was kind of beginning to see, like, some cracks in, because at the time, I definitely considered myself a Christian. At the time, I definitely believed in God. Well, I guess I definitely believed in a Christian God. I believed that Jesus rose from the dead, whatever, all that shit, right?
Zombie Jesus, yeah.
Yeah, zombie Jesus. We don't need to talk about that. Uh, but basically, fucking but it just felt really off to me. Then the next year, we had another speaker come in who would come from Egypt. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be really insightful. We're going to learn a lot about this. Essentially, he had come from Egypt, which essentially when he lived in Egypt, Egypt was still extremely tyrannical. I'm not acting like Egypt is a great country now, but like it's a lot fucking better than like what it was,
I've actually met some refugees from Egypt in the past who actually moved back to Egypt because apparently the way of life is like, or the quality of life is like better than it used to be.
Oh,
I don't know the exact politics or like condition of it, but
I had a friend who lived in Egypt and she was very well off and it seemed like she was doing really well. So it's and so I think that Egypt is getting a lot better. It's definitely not perfect, but it's getting better. But at the time when this guy was living there, it was obviously terrible. People were getting persecuted simply because they weren't Muslim, and that's obviously not okay. But what he said during that conference, like, fucking, like, disturbed me. He essentially said that the Islam that groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda practice are the true forms of Islam. Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck? And I think that the main thing about that moment, those moments that really made me think, was that I guess that part of the reason why I kind of felt outcast was, I guess, partially because I was Jewish. Not completely, but part of me had always felt like, I guess, kind of felt like I didn't quite belong. Not that. I guess I'm trying to figure out what I wanted to say. I guess I just felt like something just felt like I was different. I always felt like I was different, I guess. And I guess that was part of the reason why. But the whole Muslim thing kind of made me think, if somebody said that about fucking Jewish people, right? Like that, like if someone said that about me, right? How would I react? Because right now I'm angry, right? But I'm angry for another group. But if somebody said that about me, how would I feel? Would I be angry? Would I be scared? Would I be, And so,
have you heard of Lev Tahor?
I have not.
So it's like, I mean, there's like obviously like extremism in every group. Like there's always it's unfortunate, but there is extremism.
Correct.
But the main Jewish extremist group right now is Lev Tahor, and a lot of people are escaping it, thankfully. But they've had to move from multiple countries because they abuse children, and they're very like they're very, very, very extreme. But that would be like if a Jew that like
a former Jew.
Let's say a Christian. Let's say a Christian grew up near, or a Muslim grew up near Lev Tahor, and then went and was like, no, the true form of Judaism is Lev Tahor. Like that's encompassing and putting words in people's mouths, and like there's obviously such a and the thing is with Muslims, I know a lot of Muslims that are like, the least extreme people I've met, and they're so kind. Like, Muslim culture is absolutely beautiful. There's beautiful art, poetry, music. Like, generally, they're very accepting. Like, obviously, there's going to be people in every community that aren't very accepting, but like, no, that's such like a blanket statement. And I would have. I'm very confrontational. I would have stood up and said something, but that's just me. I'm very, very confrontational.
But here's the fact of the matter.
Yeah.
What the fuck was I gonna say? Shit. I had a fucking thought in my mind, and now it's just fucking just gone. Shit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So wait, so love to horror. I guess that fuck. Shit. I guess that it just I guess it just kind of just it made me kind of think fuck, I can't fucking get over the fact that I fucking, because it was a good point too. God fucking just piece of shit.
Would you kind of say that was like one of the straws that broke the camel's back, so to speak?
I would say so. It definitely did. Like, it was so just like appalling just to hear that.
Right.
You know, well,
I would be horrified to hear that.
Oh no, I remember what I was gonna say. I remember exactly what I was gonna say. The thing is that with all religions, there are gonna be shitty people who are gonna practice their religions however they want to. Sometimes that'll be in a great way, sometimes it's in a shitty way. Some fucking like there are Jews who practice forms of Judaism that are fucking appalling, and there are some that practice it in a way that works for everybody. You know, it depends on just what you're doing. You can't just say a blanket
everywhere.
Right, you can't just say a blanket statement like this is how they really act, because everyone practices differently.
So bad. Right. That's terrible. That's not okay.
So it began to kind of make me think more and more about that. You know, as I began looking more into my Jewish side of my of just I guess myself, I began to kind of just feel it just felt better, I guess. And I think that for a time, I think that it was definitely just because it was different. It wasn't Christianity, and I liked that more. But as time went on, and as I began to learn more, I just began to like it more and more. I began to take more pride in that fact. Now, of course, as time went on, the more I took pride in it, the more I made that known. Definitely, I wouldn't say I truly experienced anti-Semitism, because, you know, with that school, while with Muslims there was this deep hatred, with Christians it was with Jews it was a weird fascination. So I never got comments like "you killed Jesus," but it was stuff like.
So, kind of on that note, did you grow up with like any Jews in your community? I don't know. Did you grow up in kind of like a small town setting with like not a lot of Jews?
I knew no Jews in my life other than the ones I was related to. So
okay,
yeah. So that was my.
Were any of them kind of like observant at all, or were they all like, yeah, I'm ethnically Jewish, but I'm a Catholic or I'm a Christian?
So my dad is extremely secular. My my grandparents, I think, to a certain extent, kind of ruined Judaism for him. Not even just because of the fact that they practiced it wrong or anything. They were just his parents were just kind of overbearing, and so it just kind of made him move away from that, which is unfortunate, but it makes sense, you know. But everyone that lives away from me, like, you know, my Jewish family who doesn't live near me, are all very observant. They do take great pride in that, but there's also partially because they live in LA. So you know, they're kind of surrounded by an environment that encourages them, while with me, I really didn't have that. So, like, I remember that one of the oddest comments I might have told you this one, but one of the oddest comments I ever got was a teacher said that because I was Jewish, I was able to speak Arabic. And like I was kind of just like, dog, if you're gonna stereotype me, at least
Jonas.
at least fucking do it correctly.
Well, Jonas, I mean, I don't understand why you're not speaking Arabic. I mean, I'm Jewish too, so therefore I'm fluent.
That's true. You're right. Yeah. I guess I'm just a bad Jew. I guess. Fuck.
Shoot.
Yeah, I fucked it up. I'm sorry. This is all my fault. But I guess that one of the things that I guess it kind of just soured. I wouldn't say soured.
Yeah.
How do I want to say this? I guess it kind of just made me think more. But as I went on, I think one of the things that kind of did help me embrace it was my cross country coach. Now, on paper, when you saw him, and if you spoke to him, he was a very general conservative Christian man. And if you spoke to him, you'd be like, okay, sure, whatever, I get this guy. But if you knew him, he was not like that at all. I mean, he was a conservative Christian man, but he wasn't just that, if you get what I'm saying. When he found out I was Jewish...
Yeah, that wasn't his whole... It wasn't his whole personality. He didn't turn it into a toxic trait. He didn't turn his, like, political or religious beliefs into something unhealthy.
Correct.
You know?
When he found out I was Jewish, he wanted to help encourage that. For context, at the end of one of our practices, we pretty much after everything that we get at that school, we would pray. You know, like, you know, that's standard. I'm not going to get mad at the school for that. That makes sense. You know, I'm not going to get pissed off at them for that. That's pretty standard. But one time he said, do you know any Jewish prayers? And I said, I know a few. And he said, do you want to do one? And I said, sure. And that made me feel welcome. You know, hit
me with one.
Yeah.
What Jewish blessings do you know?
I'll be honest with you. I don't know a lot. The only one I know is the Hanukkah prayer. So I just went Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher k'ishanu v'tzpasav v'tzivan v'chad ner shel Hanukkah. So that was the one I did, but it made me feel welcome. You know.
Yeah.
And I mean,
not necessarily like the correct, because I mean, I guess not necessarily like, it's about like making you feel welcomed, and at least like you were able to like express your Judaism, even if it was like a small gesture, you know?
Correct. Right. No, well, the thing is that in my situation, I took what I could get. You know?
Right.
When somebody showed that they gave somewhat of a shit, I was like, hell yeah, I'll take that shit. You know?
I'll take your shit.
I will buy your shit, and you'll get interest back.
Give me your...
It's like a Shark Tank thing. Sharks, I'm selling I'm doing a shit business. I'm gonna shit in this toilet here, and then I'm gonna bag it up, and I'm gonna send it to people. All right, John. Here's the thing. I like your idea, but I think it's starting a little bit rocky. I'll give you $500,000 for a 30% stake. I don't know. That's pretty risky. If you do, I don't know. If we lower that to 20, maybe I could go for it. Like, you know. I mean, you know what? We should do that. We should run a shit business. But that can be a private business conversation. We don't want anyone stealing our ideas.
No, that's gonna be our first merch.
Yeah, just buy our shit. Just buy it. You know,
literally buy our poop. It's gonna be a shirt, and it's gonna be a proud owner of Akiva and Jonas's poop.
Exactly. So, as my high school neared an end, by that point, I was already pretty happy with my Jewish identity. I had begun on Jewish holidays, wearing my kippah to school, and just in general, I was just feeling a lot more happy in my Judaism. Now, once I began going to college, I was kind of hoping I would meet a larger Jewish community. The school that I was going, well, I guess that I am going to, is a very large school. So I was hoping that maybe I might find a lot of Jewish people. It turns out, no. I, yeah, just no. Uh, so essentially, I still felt, I wouldn't say completely alone. No, I did feel completely alone. That's a lie. I did. But that was also just because um, that's also because I didn't know how to put myself out there. So I just felt alone just in general, not just Jewishly wise. Um, then in March 2022, something kind of sad happened. Just a little sad. My
That's
grandfather
recent.
passed away. Uh,
Oh my god, yeah. Right. I
yeah,
was literally there for you during that. I remember. Okay, wow,
you
that
were
was.
not. You were not
It's
there for that. I did not know you at that point, but
I thought you did. No,
I
wait. No, wait. Yes. It was after that. My bad. It
correct.
was. It was after that.
Yes. But at
That's
that point,
still.
I essentially again felt like I had nobody, and I guess it kind of sparked up those ideas of I want a Jewish community, at least to some extent. So I began to search for areas where I could find a Jewish community. Akiva probably knows where this story is going. Uh, so I
Discord.
so I go onto a site that's called Disboard. Now, Disboard is a site. Sounds like another fucking advertisement. Disboard is a site where you can go on and you can look up Discord servers. And I just put in the word Jewish, and I find a server that's called Jewish Safe Space, and I decided just to start chatting there. Now, this is the point where Akiva and my stories start to collide a little bit. This is where, this is kind of like where we're playing, this is kind of like where we're playing, this is kind of like where we're playing, The Last of Us 2. Spoilers for Last of Us 2, I guess. This is where we're playing The Last of Us 2, and this is where, Ellie and Abby meet, and this is where their stories meet up, and you're like, whoa, that's crazy. Uh,
Wild.
yeah, it's wild. At this point, our stories meet up. Essentially, at this point, I was meeting a lot of Jewish people, and I was learning more about Judaism. At this point, I'd always kind of felt like a fake Jew. I'd always felt like, I guess I was like a faker, I guess. But after people began to speak to me, it began to kind of make me feel like that wasn't the case. That was really helpful to a certain extent, to help me feel like, even if you do maybe have some learning to do, you're not a fake Jew, you're doing the best that you can realistically in this situation. And that was helpful. And as I began to go on, I began to learn more and more about Judaism. I began to celebrate more Jewish holidays more actively. I began to learn more. I began to do more, and the biggest step that I took is that recently, on a whim, I wore my kippah to school, and it felt nice. Nobody noticed it. Nobody cared, and that's how I wanted it to be. I didn't want anyone to notice or care, and that felt nice. And I guess that now, I guess I went from being kind of like a little bit like about that identity to being very proud of it. So I guess that is the basic of my story. It's not exactly a super interesting story, but it is indeed my story.
I think it's interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, shit. You just took half an hour to talk about it. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I guess that is kind of true. I did literally just take half an hour to talk about that.
No, I think your story is really interesting. Also, yeah, you're right. I just, for some reason, time has blended together for me for the last friggin' year. So, fucking, oh man. No, it wasn't March that we started talking, but we did start talking, I think a little bit after, we were always kind of talking on and off, I think, but I don't remember exactly.
We started talking in June. June is when we started talking.
Talking. May is
when we met.
When that thing with my work happened and shit.
Yes.
Anyway, Um, well, I was always in the same server as you. I just wasn't super
Yes.
active. I kind of lurked because I was scared. Anyway, so
You.
me. So I grew up in an area called New England. Um, Now New England is very much sometimes it feels like they took policies from 1776 when they declared independence and were like, "Yep, that's good for forever." Um, but anyway, so I kind of grew up. My mom didn't really care about religion, but my grandmother did. My grandmother took a lot of. She basically made me assume in my young age that like my only time I would ever get to spend with her would be going to church functions. I grew up in a Christian denomination that is now considered a cult. It is called the Apostolic Pentecostal Movement.
I think I've heard of that.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that indoctrinated and kind of, I'm going to say brainwashed me a little bit into like fearing God, and I was afraid of God. I wasn't like happy in that relationship. Like it wasn't like a positive relationship. It felt like I was afraid of this power, and there was nothing like I wasn't loved by this power. I was afraid of it.
Right.
So I kind of grew up, and as you can probably guess, since I talk about the fact that I have a male fiance, I'm not straight. I'm not fully gay, but like I'm queer. I identify as queer. And my like growing up in the Apostolic Pentecostal movement, that wasn't really okay. There was a lot of scary stuff in the Apostolic movement, like the feeling the spirit, like where people basically like scream in gibberish and wiggle around and stuff, and like basically fake seizures. But it's not a seizure; it's them feeling the spirit. When in reality, they're just kind of having. It seems like they're just having a breakdown. And that was scary, and I didn't like it. I never felt anything good about it. But growing up, I grew up with a lot of the grandchildren of Holocaust survivors. So I grew up with a lot of Jews. Not like a lot, but like a good amount. Like probably like in every class I had like 2 or 3 Jewish kids that were my friends.
Right.
I even grew up with like one girl who you'll hear about her later. But she was like my close friend growing up, especially through high school, middle school. So I kind of like, and I was going to like Pentecostal learning things. Sunday was church and worship. Mondays and Wednesdays were like class, and oh man, I hated it. I started to resent it. My mom didn't really care about religion. She made it so my grandmother would never baptize me. But the I left the Christian religion when I was younger, when I was like 13, and then I kind of like I was like a agnostic atheist, I guess, for a while. I was not religious. I kind of resented religion, like to the point where I was kind of hateful and spiteful and angry.
Right.
And then I realized, wow, it's actually kind of exhausting being hateful.
Yeah, shockingly.
Shockingly, it's actually really tiring being angry all the time. So out of curiosity, I went to a Catholic church out of pure curiosity, and I felt pretty welcomed. Everyone was pretty nice to me, and I even got like a little gift bag of like holy water and a rosary, and it was a very nice rosary too. It was nice, you know. I was like, okay, cool. I feel a little welcomed. But then they like started converting me and started indoctrinating me and started like, honestly, they started like brainwashing me into their system. And I hated it. Like, but I loved it at the same time. Like, I was just like brainwashed into loving it. I was going like to church functions like 6 days a week. Sundays would be church service. So I mean, I guess all week I'd be going to like church functions and stuff.
Right.
But I had similar like things like you, but like the thing is like I would ask questions about like where does this actually talk about Jesus? Why does this actually make sense? And they'd just be like, oh, read the Bible. And I'd read the Bible and I'd be like, okay, this still doesn't make sense. Whereas like, is there any other like commentary, like anything? No.
Right.
I was like, I was like, all right. And then leading up to my baptism, I cut down from 6 days a week to 4 days a week, church functions. And the priest told me I'm not a good Catholic, and he would never baptize me until I went back to more church functions.
Fuck.
Um, so I said, go fuck yourself.
Right.
And this priest is a very well-known pedophile now.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I called him that. And he got red in the face, pointed at the door, and said, get the fuck out. He said, you're banned from this church. You're never coming back. And I'm like, all right. So I left, and I went to the Episcopal church, which is pretty cool. It's like, it feels like a mix of like Anglicanism and Catholicism. It felt good, you know, for a while. But then I started asking those questions again. And they would do the same thing. They'd tell me, look in the Bible. And
Right.
I'd look in the Bible.
Basically,
And
non-answers.
then I'd be like, this doesn't make sense. Make it make sense. Like explain it to me because I'm trying to understand it. And they'd be like, oh, read the Bible.
You know what that reminds me of?
What?
There's a fucking podcast that's called Come Town. And one of the hosts on that podcast talks about how he ran like this scam like tutoring business where like what he would do would be like people would like pay him like $120 to like tutor them. And like but then what he would do would basically he would like he would like get them to like figure it out for themselves because like he had like no idea how to do it. And so he would basically do nothing and then they would figure it out and then he get fucking paid for it. That's just what that reminded me of.
So I get I convert, I get baptized, confirmed, and received into the Episcopal Church. And I'm like, okay, cool. But then I realized, like, wait, all of these like members of this church are like ex-Catholics that just wanted to get divorced. And I'm like, okay, but they might be accepting of like queer people. Nope. Very homophobic. And like obviously the church itself, like the Episcopal Church itself, very accepting and LGBT friendly and all that, but very homophobic and transphobic, a lot of the congregants, because they're just ex-Catholics that wanted to get divorced or didn't like one thing about the Catholic Church and wanted to leave.
Right. Jeez. Fuck.
And like I don't know. I just had a moment. I was like, I don't I don't think this is right for me. Like, at my brain, I was just like, I don't know what I want. I don't know where I want to go, but this is not right for me. I even called like the local Muslim chapter. They never got back to me because I basically said like I'm not interested in converting, but I want to learn. And
Right.
they went, and then obviously not all Muslim communities are like that, but I do know some are very like heavy on trying to convert people. Some, and that's like with almost every religion, except Judaism,
Yeah.
because we're forbidden from what's the term, proselytizing.
Right.
So I finish so I like my so growing up I'm gonna kind of backtrack to like middle school.
All
So I
right.
grew up with this girl. Her name was let's give her a different name. Just her name was Fizzles.
All right. Fizzles. All right. Sounds like it sounds like a stripper name, but all right.
No. Damn. Okay.
Let's go with Fizzles. I'm
What's
fine with
the
Fizzles.
Fizzles? Okay. Well, her name was Fizzles. And um, so her name was Fizzles. Growing up, like her mom was a like lunch monitor at the school that we went to in middle
Okay.
school. So, and they were Jewish. Fizzles and Fizzles' mom. So I would get like, and I didn't know like why at first. I didn't keep track of holidays or anything, but they would bring me like food that they cooked from like dinners for those holidays. Like around Hanukkah, they would bring me latkes and like the apple fritters or whatever they were called.
Right.
Around Rosh Hashanah, I got like a slice of apple honey cake. Um, around sometimes on Shabbos they would bring me, or Shabbat they would bring me like for those of you who don't know, the Shabbos or Shabbat, that's the Jewish Sabbath. Around the Jewish Sabbath, they would bring me like challah that they baked, or like stuff like that. They would bring me like food pertaining to the holidays, and they'd be like, "Oh, well, this is the holiday." They'd explain it to me a little bit, but they'd also just be like, here's yummy food, enjoy." Here's yummy homemade food, and me, I'm like, like, ooh, yeah. But also, like, I always appreciated, that, like learning about, whatever Jewish culture I could learn about, because I understood that, like, there aren't a lot of, there aren't a lot of Jews in my area. There's a good amount, like there's a decent amount in my area, but we're nowhere near like, like major cities like L.A., Chicago, New York, like the big, where there's a lot of Jews, Cleveland, Cincinnati, like stuff like that. So kind of get what you get. There was another kid, I think he was Orthodox, but he was a good kid too. But around the holiday season, he would like bring stuff in. He would like play dreidel, and he would like play dreidel with like some of the kids, and he would teach kids about like this, that, and the other, and all that. And that was kind of fun. But that was like my connection to Judaism, growing up. Now, um, flash forward into high school. I'm with like, I meet this guy. Didn't really like him too much. He made a lot of anti-Semitic jokes. And there was one Jewish kid in our group, like in our friend group. And this is the friend group where I met the guy that I call my brother. because we're just very close friends. We've been friends since 2014, like 8 years.
Right.
And that's pretty fucking long. That's a pretty decent chunk of my life. And then think about it. Like, him and I are probably going to stay friends until, like, we're really old. That's, like, a majority of my life, him being friends with me, you know? So, you know, I started to kind of distance myself from him because he's, like, bullying this Jewish kid in our group. And then I completely cut ties with him after he took it too far and then put all the blame on me.
Jeez. Fuck.
He was not a good guy, by any measure. He was just a terrible person. And as far as I know, he still is. So, trigger warning, mention of suicide. He bullied that Jewish girl, Fizzles,
Right.
into committing suicide.
Fuck. Shit.
So that, like, angered the whole... you might want to bleep out the S word. I don't know how YouTube is going to be with censoring or whatever, but, like, so I'm just like, all right, fucking wow. And at this point, I'm, like, out of both, like, I'm out of Christianity at this point. I'm kind of like, nah, Christianity's run its course. I'm kind of okay. I'm good. I'm set.
Right.
So I move about an hour away. With my, like, I was living with my sister at this point. So I move up to a little, like, small town, and there was like one Jewish kid at this high school. He was nice, and him and I got along very well. And they have something called like a senior project or whatever.
Yep, I do a senior project. Yep.
And it's like you have to do something you've never done before. So it was like, okay. My first thing was like, why don't I interview, like, people from every, like, the major religions in the area, ask them these, you know, questions, and then after that, you know, I'll put it all together and I'll kind of be like, okay, this is what I learned about this faith. And they were like, okay, cool, we approve that senior project. But I get in touch with, like, this Catholic priest. I interview him. I talk, and he guilt trips me into doing a fucking profession of faith.
What the fuck? Jeez.
He made me do a profession of faith.
Why?
And then he gifts me like this gold crucifix and, like, these 2 rosaries and this bottle of holy water and, like, this rosary booklet. And he's like, you know, if you pray this amount of decades a day, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I leave, and I'm like, and I'm holding this, and I have a smile on my face. And then I, like, as soon as I leave, my smile drops, my mood shifts to a bad mood. And I'm like, oh. I was like, wait. Like, he just gave me all these things, and he wants me to convert back. That's literally it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was.
So I did not destroy these things. They are given away. I did not destroy them. You know, just so people know, I didn't just, like, destroy or break these things. But I meet with this rabbi, right? Mm-hmm. And at first I'm like, okay, wait. Like, at first I was like, you know, because, like, my idea of Judaism was that it was this blanket thing. I didn't think there was, like, diversity of, like, Jewish religion. I knew there was a diversity of Jewish ethnicity, but I didn't know there was, like, diversity of, like, Jewish practice and, like, level of observance and so on and so forth. I didn't know that.
Right.
Which, you know, fair enough. So I talked, So I talked to this rabbi, and this rabbi is a awesome, awesome rabbi. I love her to death. Like, I still go to her services and talk to her. Kindest, most sympathetic rabbi I've ever met, person I've ever met. I mean, there's other, there's obviously other kind and sympathetic rabbis, but she's just awesome. We talk, and I'm like, okay, hold on. So then I go and I change my senior project to I want to study Judaism, and at the end I wanted to decide whether or not I want to convert.
Did they approve that?
And yeah.
Oh, I thought the story was about to take a bad turn.
No, they approved it. So I go and I go in and I start studying and I'm learning and I'm like, okay, cool. And then something unfortunate happened in my life where I then had to move an hour away to the seacoast of my state, which I was very upset about at first. But then I met with the rabbi of that area, and I'll tell you what, I never became more I'm obviously still very invested in study and everything, but I just enveloped myself in study. I felt at home. I felt great. I went to every single service. I went to Shabbat night and morning services. I went to I did everything. I and I still study as much as I do. I still study a lot, but I basically continued my conversion journey. And then I moved back home to my one of my towns that I lived in, and moved in with my parents after I turned 18. Because I aged out of the children's home I lived in. I wasn't funny enough. I wasn't allowed to fast on Yom Kippur.
Why?
Because they considered it hurting myself. And I said, what did you do when you had that Muslim kid? And they were like, oh, we let him fast on Ramadan. And I'm like, okay, and they were like, well, yeah, but we just after sundown or whatever, or whenever they can eat. Forgive me for not being super educated on Muslim practice.
Right.
But I think it's after sundown they can eat. I think. I don't remember exactly, but there's a certain time where they can eat.
You know what? No, it is that, and I'm pretty sure it is that because I remember seeing a meme where it was some shit like Muslims in Antarctica waiting for the sun to set so they can eat. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, I'm just, I was like, okay, whatever. I also wasn't allowed to finish my conversion. They didn't allow me to.
No, that's
because
fucked.
I would have had to. So this is kind of, to convert to Judaism, you have to be circumcised.
Right.
If you're already circumcised, they do something called a hatafat dam brit, or bris, which is basically they do, they take basically a lancet for blood testing or whatever, and they take a drop of blood from the site of the circumcision, and that's part of the conversion, because then it shows oh, you're rededicating yourself to the covenant, so on and so forth. Obviously
so
a religious Jewish conversion. Yeah.
Oh.
You don't have to go through that.
Oh, okay.
I did in the future, but the children's home would not, and the state would not let me do it because they considered it self-harm. Which was ridiculous. But anyway, I moved back to my hometown that I lived in with my parents, and I was okay. I fit in okay with the new synagogue, the synagogue I started going to, but it didn't feel the same. I was still pretty observant, but I wasn't crazy observant. I would go to synagogue every once in a while, You also know me. I work food service, and I work a lot. Um, so like, I would only really go when I could. But oh, excuse me, sorry, I'm stretching. Jesus,
You're
oh, my
good.
back hurts. Anyway, so you know, a couple like a year passes, and I finalize my conversion and get my Hebrew name, and all that stuff. And now, granted, I didn't really find much of a Jewish community. During my conversion, I had a friend who was Jewish that lived in Virginia, and they're Ashkenazi, and they were awesome. I got to learn a lot about like Jewish home life and like stuff like that. It really changed my like view of levels of observance. It definitely upped my level of observance, I would say. I learned way more than I thought I would, just by like being in an observant Jewish home.
Right.
So
No, that's a really good thing.
Yeah, it was honestly really cool. Um, and I mean, fuck it, like it's worth the trip, like Virginia, whatever. Like not too far, like a 12-hour drive for me. For me, that's nothing because I love traveling. Um, but yeah, so I would spend like I spent a couple holidays with them. I'm still in touch with that family. They're very awesome. But yeah, like I learned a lot about that. I started like wearing what's called tzitzit, which is like fringes. It's on the four corners of the garment, like strands that run, like basically strings that come down on
Right.
each corner of the garment, four corners. And I would start wearing my like kippah, my yarmulke in public more often. But I never really like found a Jewish community online. Like here and there, I would like find Facebook groups that didn't really like do much. And then I went on Discord in like 2021 or 2022, like late 2021 going into 2022. And I found Jewish Safe Space. Yeah. And I still every year I observe the like day of mourning for like my friend Fizzles
Right.
who passed away. Uh, because I kind of dedicate a little bit of my Jewish conversion to her.
Right.
I mean, I even if I have a daughter, because I do plan on having kids. If I have a daughter, I'm gonna give like her Hebrew name to my daughter,
Or
just as like a dedication. But yeah, and I mean, I've experienced quite a bit of anti-Semitism
no, really?
since I
No.
became very visibly Jewish. Um, I I was a manager at one franchise of the food service company that I worked for in another state, and they hired a big, tall, muscular man who stole money on camera, but I wasn't allowed to touch, handle, or count money
Oh my god.
anymore. And then I was threatened constantly with beatings, lynchings. I was blamed for this, that, and the other. So yeah. Flash forward to I think it was 2021. Yeah, it was 2021. Like March or April 2021. I do a DNA test because I had an aunt that was very much not a credible source of information. She's a pathological liar. She's very much, um, unfortunately, a drug addict and a
Right.
drunk, a whole nine yards. Um, wanted, she's now wanted in like 10 different counties
Well, that's
surrounding me.
awesome. That's fucking awesome. Hell yeah. I respect your aunt. Hell yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
what a
like, not
role
for
model.
everything, but just for that, hell yeah. I
Yeah.
fucking okay. Listen,
Okay. So
small tangent. I fucking love drug addicts. They're so funny. Anyways, continue.
Um, so yeah, so she told me like, no, we're Jewish on your mom's father's side, and I'm like, nah, no, no, not true. Well, I take one DNA test that isn't good at finding Jewish DNA. Then I take another DNA test that's like good for finding Jewish DNA. And bing, 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 Ashkenazi Jewish. So I
Hey,
was like,
hey,
huh.
hey.
So I was like, huh. All right, cool. Um, so yeah, and I'm ethnically Jewish, and I've gone and I've tried to find my Jewish family. But unfortunately, my mother's father passed away from heart issues in 1990, whatever. And I can't find evidence. Like I can't because like all the names are like Catholic French names, so I think they were forced to convert. There are names that are linked to my family that I can't find like an exact direct link, but they are linked to my family, like Schulman, Apfelbaum, and I don't remember the third one, but yeah. I am gonna try and reclaim when I get married. I'm gonna claim my Jewish name back for like my family, and then I'm going to take I'm going to like hyphenate it with my fiance's name. Anyway, so flash forward to this year. Jonas knows this. But I had a very unfortunate anti-Semitic incident happen at one of my workplaces.
Yes, I do
It
know
was
this. I saw a
after
video of it.
it was it was after the tragedy that happened in Uvalde, Texas. And my coworker happens to be from Texas, so I came up to him and I asked him. I said, "Hey, I'm sure you heard about what happened in Texas. I'd be pretty shaken up if something like that happened. And I was that far away from my home state." And he was like, "No, that's bullshit. It's all made up. This is, and who runs the media, blah, blah, blah." And then he started denying the Holocaust. And he went on this whole tangent about how Jews run the world. Basically every anti-Semitic trope was yelled at me for like 45 minutes. I went to my employer, and my employer went, "Okay, we're going to deal with this. Like, we're going to handle it. Don't worry." So I was like, okay, maybe they actually will. Well, no, they did not. 2 weeks later, I got, "Well, what do you expect? Everyone's entitled to their own opinion."
Right. Which,
And I was like, oh, that was fucked. So, I left. I put in my 2 weeks, and they were like, "No, we're going to pay you your last 2 weeks, and today's your last day." I'm like, okay, fine. So, I get a paycheck, and then they tell me, "Okay, you're going to get your next paycheck," and it didn't arrive. And they were like, "No, we gave you all your money that we owe you." And I was like, "No, you're incorrect." And I told them I'm going to get a lawyer if I don't get my paycheck. And they didn't. They were like, "Oh, well, actually, you're going to get your paycheck this week." And I'm like, okay. That week comes. Nothing. Another week comes. Nothing. The next week on a Monday, not a payroll day, on a Monday, I get my check. I get a check, like deposited suddenly, not pending, just a suddenly deposited paycheck. Of the amount that was missing. So I was like, huh, wonder where that came from.
yeah.
Actively, I am suing this former employer for discrimination and emotional damages. I am suing them actively for a good amount of money because that set me back financially a lot. I'm still recovering from that missing paycheck,
Yeah, that would make
even though
sense.
I got it like 3 weeks late. Actually, no, I got it like a month and a half late. So that set me back so much.
Exactly. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah. So, and then now I'm still kind of uncomfortable being visibly Jewish in public. I'm trying to get back into being visibly Jewish, but I'm still very proud of my Jewish identity. I'm just kind of like taking a safety break for a minute, so to speak.
Right. A pretty reasonable thing to do at this current moment in time.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, that's my riveting story.
We have now told our riveting tales of these riveting tales. We laughed, we cried, you know.
We shit our pants.
We did indeed shit our pants, and that was my favorite part personally. I love a good shit in the pants.
We busted a nut in the MILF, you know?
Well, that's, I guess. I mean, like, that's part really not. I mean, that's like the part that's like, you kind of like assume. Like, that's probably like, it's kind of like the part where it's like, yeah, like, of course you did. Like, obviously. Like, that's the part you don't really need to, like, state. Like, it's kind of like, yeah.
Absolutely. You know, I'm waiting for like a year from now. We're not even like, we don't even mention the name of our podcast just because like we just picked the name on a fucking whim. It's so fucking funny.
We picked the name. Hello there, folks. I'm going to tell you the reason why we picked this name. The reason why we started this podcast, this is not a joke, is because one time if I can stop dying.
Fuck.
I don't know if you ever heard the song It's Been So Long by The Living Tombstone. It's a Five Nights at Freddy's song. And my good friend Akiva said, and my good friend Akiva here said that it had been a long time. So I, obviously, in this situation, who wouldn't, I went, it's been so long since I busted a nut inside your mom. And that, I guess they apparently love that so much they wanted to start a podcast with me. So now you get to hear our completely delusional and insane ramblings. So you're welcome. This is what you get, I guess.
You have to hear us talk for a whole fucking hour.
Yeah, for a whole hour. Some people may consider this there's a small percentage of people who may consider this a blessing, a large percentage of the people who may consider this a curse, but that's not really our concern. On that note, it has been an hour with Jonas and Akiva, and because of that, it's time for us to go and just be insane. We're just gonna do some crazy shit. You'll see us on the news just doing just crazy, insane shit. Like you don't you don't even know. You don't even know the crazy shit we're about to do. It's gonna be wild. As the kids say, we finna be wild. Yeah, that's about it.
Still got to do an outro. All right.
Yeah, we still gotta make one. We didn't do that, but we're here now. We can't make one on the spot, I guess. So, yeah. So I've been your host, Jonas Goldberg.
I've been Akiva.
And it's time for us to go. To leave. We're gonna leave now. We're
all right.
Yep, we're gonna leave. All right. It's been nice talking to all of you people.
Take care, kids. Be safe.
Take care, kids. If there's any kids watching this, I'm sorry. All right.
The sidewalk.
Goodbye, my friends.